morning. Thank you for joining me today. Appreciate it. Let's start here in Genesis chapter 41, verse 17, through chapter 42, verse 17. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "In my dream, I was standing by the edge of the Nile. Then 7 fat and fine-looking cows were coming up out of the Nile, and they grazed in the reeds. Then 7 other cows came up after them. They were scrawny, very bad-looking, and lean. I had never seen such bad-looking cows as these in all the land of Egypt. The lean, bad-looking cows ate up the 7 fat cows. When they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had done so, for they were just as bad-looking as before. Then I woke up. I also saw in my dream 7 heads of grain growing on one stalk, full and good. Then 7 heads of grain, withered and thin, and burned with the east wind, were sprouting up after them. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads of grain. So I told all this to the diviner priests, but no one could tell me its meaning." Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "Both dreams of Pharaoh have the same meaning. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows represent 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain represent 7 years. Both dreams have the same meaning. The 7 lean, bad-looking cows that came up after them represent 7 years, as do the 7 empty heads of grain burned with the east wind. They represent 7 years of famine. This is just what I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the whole land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will occur after them, and all the abundance will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will devastate the land. The previous abundance of the land will not be remembered because of the famine that follows, for the famine will be very severe." The dream was repeated to Pharaoh because the matter had been decreed by God, and God will make it happen soon. So now Pharaoh should look for a wise and discerning man and give him authority over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh should do this. He should appoint officials throughout the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should gather all the excess food during these good years that are coming. By Pharaoh's authority, they should store up grain so the cities will have food, and they should preserve it. This food should be held in storage for the land in preparation for the 7 years of famine that will occur throughout the land of Egypt. In this way, the land will survive the famine. This advice made sense to Pharaoh and all his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can we find a man like Joseph, one in whom the Spirit of God is present?" So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Because God has enabled you to know all this, there is no one as wise and discerning as you are. You will oversee my household, and all my people will submit to your commands. Only I, the king, will be greater than you. See here," Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I place you in authority over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his own hand and put it on Joseph's. He clothed him with fine linen clothes and put a gold chain around his neck. Pharaoh had him ride in the chariot used by his second in command, and they cried out before him, "Kneel down." So he placed him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, but without your permission no one will move his hand or his foot in all the land of Egypt." Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zaphenath-Paneah. He also gave him Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, to be his wife. So Joseph took charge of all the land of Egypt. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he began serving Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Joseph was commissioned by Pharaoh and was in charge of all the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced large, bountiful harvests. Joseph collected all the excess food in the land of Egypt during the 7 years and stored it in the cities. In every city he put the food gathered from the fields around it. Joseph stored up a vast amount of grain, like the sand of the sea, until he stopped measuring it, because it was impossible to measure. 2 sons were born to Joseph before the famine came. Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, was their mother. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, saying, "Certainly God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's house." He named the second child Ephraim, saying, "Certainly God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." The 7 years of abundance in the land of Egypt came to an end. Then the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had predicted. There was famine in all the other lands, but throughout the land of Egypt there was food. When all the land of Egypt experienced the famine, the people cried out to Pharaoh for food. Pharaoh said to all the people of Egypt, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." While the famine was over all the earth, Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians. The famine was severe throughout the land of Egypt. People from every country came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain because the famine was severe throughout the earth. When Jacob heard there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you looking at each other?" He then said, "Look, I hear that there's grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy grain for us, so that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, "What if some accident happens to him?" So Israel's sons came to buy grain among the other travelers, for the famine was severe in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was the ruler of the country, the one who sold grain to all the people of the country. Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger to them and spoke to them harshly. He asked, "Where do you come from?" They answered, "From the land of Canaan, to buy grain for food." Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Then Joseph remembered the dreams he had dreamed about them, and he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see if our land is vulnerable." But they exclaimed, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy grain for food. We are all the sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." "No," he insisted, "but you have come to see if our land is vulnerable." They replied, "Your servants are from a family of 12 brothers. We are the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. The youngest is with our father at this time, and one is no longer alive." But Joseph told them, "It is just as I said to you. You are spies. You will be tested in this way. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not depart from this place, unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother, while the rest of you remain in prison. In this way your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies." He imprisoned them all for 3 days. So, reading through this previously, I've always kind of viewed Joseph as being capricious, of like just having an axe to grind with his brothers, with just throwing them in prison. But in Genesis chapter 42, verse 11, they say, "We are all the sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." And they, in their statements with Joseph, lie. In 42:13, "The youngest is with our father at this time, and one is no longer alive." Clearly a lie. And I thought I picked something else out. Perhaps not. I guess with Genesis chapter 41, verse 57, people from every country came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain because the famine was severe throughout the earth. I wonder what the word was here for earth. Could be country, land, ground, people of the land. Yeah, just if it was unfeasible for a person to come and get food from Egypt, then they probably didn't. Okay, Matthew chapter 13, verse 24 through 46. He presented them with another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a person who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the plant sprouted and bore grain, then the weeds also appeared. So the slaves of the owner came and said to him, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Then where did the weeds come from?" He said, "An enemy has done this." So the slaves replied, "Do you want us to go and gather them?" But he said, "No, since in gathering the weeds you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At harvest time I will tell the reapers, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, but then gather the wheat into my barn." He gave them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest garden plant and becomes a tree, so that the wild birds come and nest in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of flour until all the dough had risen. Jesus spoke all these things in parables to the crowds. He did not speak to them without a parable. This fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet. "I will open my mouth in parables. I will announce what has been hidden from the foundation of the world." Then he left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples came to him, saying, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. As the weeds are collected and burned with fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will gather from his kingdom everything that causes sin, as well as all lawbreakers. They will throw them into the fiery furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. The one who has ears had better listen. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field that a person found and hid. Then because of joy he went and sold all that he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for fine pearls. When he found a pearl of great value, he went out and sold everything he had and bought it. Those last two, a hidden treasure and a costly pearl, were I think exhibiting the dedication to the kingdom of heaven that God is looking for. That is, devoting one's whole life to it. That is, in 44, because of joy he went and sold all that he had and bought that field. It's all in. The other one with the tares among the wheat is I think, oh goodness, I heard it explained recently that, via a question of, why doesn't God just remove the people who are spouting all the lies about the kingdom of heaven, like all the heretical religions, like I don't know, Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, Muslims, things like that. But and like I think this is a I don't know. The punishment is reserved for the end, not in the present age. Psalm chapter 18, verses 1 through 15. He said, I love you, Lord, my source of strength. The Lord is my high ridge, my stronghold, my deliverer. My God is my rocky summit, where I take shelter, my shield, the horn that saves me, and my refuge. I called to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I was delivered from my enemies. The ways of death engulfed me. The currents of chaos overwhelmed me. The ropes of Sheol tightened around me. The snares of death trapped me. In my distress I called to the Lord. I cried out to my God. From his heavenly temple he heard my voice. He listened to my cry for help. The earth heaved and shook. The roots of the mountains trembled. They heaved because he was angry. Smoke ascended from his nose. Fire devoured as it came from his mouth. He hurled down fiery coals. He made the sky sink as he descended. A thick cloud was under his feet. He mounted a winged angel and flew. He glided on the wings of the wind. He shrouded himself in darkness and thick rain clouds. From the brightness in front of him came hail and fiery coals. The Lord thundered in the sky. The Sovereign One shouted. He shot his arrows and scattered them. Many lightning bolts and routed them. The depths of the sea were exposed. The inner regions of the world were uncovered by your battle cry, Lord, by the powerful breath from your nose. He reached down from above and took hold of me. He pulled me from the surging water. He rescued me from my strong enemy, from those who hate me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in my day of calamity, but the Lord helped me. Read 3 verses too many there. Oh well. Pretty awesome imagery. The depths of the sea being exposed, like a great disturbance in the water, so that the waters are parted and you can see inside the deeper regions. Carrying on, Proverbs chapter 4, verses 1 through 6, a father's instruction. Listen, children, to a father's instruction, and pay attention so that you may gain discernment, because I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son to my father, a tender only child before my mother, he taught me, and he said to me, Let your heart lay hold of my words. Keep my commands, so that you will live. Acquire wisdom, acquire understanding. Do not forget, and do not turn aside from the words I speak. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will guard you. Yeah. Should always strive to act with wisdom. Cool. Well, thank you for joining me today. Appreciate it. Bye.